Osio Nagad, Lynn Wilson, Dawado, thank you and welcome. My name is Lynn Wilson. We're glad to have you join us for the fourth session of our journey into Indian country, entrepreneurial opportunities and cultural tourism. So today is session 4, how collaborative partners can strengthen your value proposition. So at this time, I would like to turn the webinar over to our moderator, Stacia Morphine.
Tatshala, Inam Wanik Dwas Kusnim Kasnua, Soyapo Wanik Dwas Station Morphine, Tots Pa'ain. What I said is, good afternoon. My name is One Who Takes Care of Water, also known as Station Morphine. Welcome. I'm very excited that you have taken time out of your day to join us today in the webinar series, Journey into Indian Country, How Collaborative Partners Can Strengthen Your Value Proposition. So today you're going to learn about how strengthening partnerships have brought value to my value proposition. And then also we have a guest with us today, and his name is Will Lowe. He is going to offer some suggestions and some real life ideas on things that he has gone through in cultural tourism as well. And so with that being said, we would like you to navigate to the PowerPoint presentation, and myself, Stacia Morphine, is on the left, and then William Lowe is on the right. And then at this time, I'm going to go ahead and ask Will to introduce himself. Will, if you will.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Will Lowe. I am from the Muskogee Creek Nation in Oklahoma. I currently serve as the HR Director for Bacone College in Muskogee, Oklahoma, and serve on the Muskogee Creek Nation National Council for the Okmulgee District.
Sounds great. Well, thank you for joining us today. So the second slide here is something that I go by every single day of my life. So I always have to give respect to where I come from. And remembering who we are each day is extremely important as Indigenous Native American people. Also tied in with remembering who we are each day is identifying and understanding your territorial homeland. So for us, for Nimiipuu, Nez Perce, we have a broad, wide, vast territorial homeland in which we occupy. So if you look at the middle picture here in the PowerPoint, you'll notice that we have homeland in Wyoming, Idaho, Oregon, Washington, and Montana. And we also navigated up to Canada, California, and across the Pacific Northwest on several occasions, and then even down into to Mexico and back east as well. But this is a bird's eye shot of our territorial homeland, also within our treaties. So our 1855 treaty is with the light pink, and then the 1863 treaty is the small dark green. So you can see our Aboriginal homeland versus our reservation boundaries. And so just real quick, off to the left, I would like to highlight Lizzie Cayuse. She's been noted as a Nimiipuu spokeswoman. And Lizzie Cayuse comes from the Redbird Band on my grandfather's side, Larry Idaho Green. And on my grandmother's side, I come from a Nimiipuu spiritual leader by the name of Pile of Clouds. So it's just really important that you remember who you are each day, and you do research on the families that you come from on your mother's and your father's side. So my mother is non-tribal, and from my mother's side, we have a European descent and Holland as well. And so I'm so thankful that I have such a beautiful blend of cultures mixed inside of me that I'm able to pass on through my business and also through my family. I have a daughter, she's 2.5 now, and so everything that I'm learning through this business, Nez Perce tourism, and in life, I'm able to teach my daughter, and so that's really important. But what we're going to get into right now is the value proposition, business model canvas, and why you need a business plan. So just real quick, I want to talk about the value proposition. And a value proposition is the promise of the value to be delivered, communicated, and acknowledged. It is also a belief from the customer about how value will be delivered, experienced, and acquired. So in a previous PowerPoint webinar series, we had talked about a very well-known travel company called TripAdvisor. And so I was able to find TripAdvisor's business model canvas, which is shown now. In the smack dab middle, you see the value proposition. Now, the value proposition is the most important thing that we can think of when it comes to business planning and business model canvas. Without a strong value proposition, you might not get as far as you thought. So it's just really important that you take time and you think about what is it that your customer needs that they aren't already getting. And so, for example, TripAdvisor's value proposition for the travelers, you can see that they have two different customer segments. One is travelers and one is for hotels. So they break down two different value propositions for both customer segments. So for their travelers, you can tell that the value proposition that they offer is travel planning content. So they're able to gather all of this travel planning dates and guidelines and connections and foods and hotels and airports and all of these things. So you just have to go to one place to start booking, find reviews, find all of this information about your upcoming travel arrangements, all found in one location, which is the TripAdvisor website. Now for the hotels, their value proposition is a little bit different. And so you can see that they have their bullet points there in which they connect on. So you can go ahead and read through those. So for my company, Nez Perce Tourism, we have 4 different customer segments, which means that we have 4 different value propositions. And as an example, I'm just going to go ahead and go through one customer segment for time and then one value proposition. So in the business model canvas customer segments, I have tourists, local community, businesses, and our enterprise. So those are my customer segments. And so for the tourists, for the value proposition is we are going to have a welcoming, interactive adventure that is an authentic experience highlighting the Nimiipuu, Nez Perce people. There's going to be opportunities for overnight accommodations, for photos, and for gifts and memories. That's the value proposition that I have for my tourists customer segment. And so right now, knowing in my current region, in my area, there are a lot of people who are coming here for tourism to meet the Nimiipuu, the Nez Perce people. But before Nez Perce Tourism came along, what they were meeting was non-tribal folks sharing the Nez Perce story. And so it's a lot different when you show up to a place thinking that you're going to meet authenticity and you meet Lewis and Clark instead of, say, the Nimiipuu. You may be a little bummed out, or maybe that's exactly what you were looking for. But for us, we do know that there are people who were interested and are interested in learning more about the Nimiipuu Nez Perce Nation. And so the value proposition that I have is very strong because, again, we're welcoming. We offer interactive adventure. We offer an authentic experience. We offer overnight accommodations, photo opportunities, gifts and memorabilia, all of these things that people want. And most importantly, we have the people. They want to meet the people of the specific nation they're visiting. So that's my value proposition specifically for tourists, guests. Now going over here, looking at Nez Perce Tourism, I wanted to let people know what my services are. So I have multiple revenue streams coming into Nez Perce Tourism, and the asterisks on this slide showcase the partners that I have. And so for every one of them that has an asterisk, a star by it, I have a key partner that I work with to help strengthen that value proposition. For example, the Hear the Echoes of Our Ancestors Jet Boat Tour. That's a 3-hour tour departing from the Snake River over to Buffalo Eddy. And Buffalo Eddy is one of our power places. And we're able to access that via jet boat. So my partner is Beamer's Hells Canyon Tours. So I partner with a local jet boating outfit. And there's a really unique opportunity inside that because for our area, one of the big attractions is jet boating into Hell's Canyon, the deepest river gorge in North America. Yes, deeper than the Grand Canyon. And so we have a unique opportunity here of a place that is full of Nez Perce history because we were the first inhabitants of this area. And so for us to be able to offer a jet boat tour from the Nez Perce perspective, where we can showcase and help our guests envision the villages that were once there, to envision the hundreds and thousands of Appaloosas running on the hillsides, to envision our pit houses and our long houses that lived along the Snake and Clearwater rivers. I mean, these are the things that our guests are looking for. They want that authentic experience. So without this partnership with the local jet boat company, I would not be able to offer any of the services within Hear the Echoes of Our Ancestors because I don't personally own a $250,000 jet boat. And so it's just really neat that you can start identifying these things and these key players and these key partners. And inside the business model canvas, and I'll always go back to that because it's really important, you have your customer relationships, you have your key partners, and you'll identify what those are, and you'll add to it and potentially even take away from it as time goes on. And so it's important with that business model canvas is that oftentimes when you're going into, and we'll get into this on our next series as well, which will be a Pathway to Discovery, how to conduct market research to determine the feasibility of your tourism business idea. You'll note that we have a lot of partners that are ready and willing to work with you. They're just looking for that indigenous person to move that business forward. And so moving on from my partnership with the Beamer's Hell's Canyon Jet Boat, I want to look at the Dinner with the Nez Perce. And this is something that is very unique because I started out working with our local Quality Inn Hotel and Suites in Clarkston, Washington. And so I'm also partnering with the Clearwater River Casino and the Coeur d'Alene Casino, which is our neighboring tribe, because they see the importance in tourism as well. So we're able to connect the dots and we're able to enhance our guest experience, not to only experience the Nimipu, but to also experience our sisters and our brothers up in Coeur d'Alene as well. So we want to make sure that we're maximizing on our customer experience through these Dinner with the Nez Perces. And so with that partnership, my personal venue is not large enough to host, 30 to 3,000 people for a dinner. But some of these venues are, such as the Quality Inn Suites in Clarkston, such as the Clearwater and Coeur d'Alene casinos. And so that's what's really neat about the Dinner with the Nez Perce and those partnerships is being able to add that value proposition. And along with that value is also the overnight experience because you can stay and you can enjoy and you can play and you can go golfing and you can do all of these neat things while you attend one of the Dinner with the Nez Perces. So you're also not only adding value to your personal or your business model canvas, but you're also adding value to your community for your lodging tax revenues, for your gas stays, for when they stop in the gift shop and purchase items from your tribal artists. These are all things that trickle down into our economics in a positive way. So I also offered van transportation. You can purchase the van rental service with a driver or without a driver. And that's something that I typically operate on my own. Now, one of the things that I want to give you a heads up on if you're interested or if you see a market in your area for transportation is you're going to need to be aware of the insurance that's included in that. So my insurance is just about the same or a little more than my monthly payment. And so when you start transporting people, goods, or services, you're going to want to make sure you're covered. So when we get into the financial planning of your business, you'll want to make sure that you're covered via insurance as well. And so my next one is rafting the riverbeds of the Nez Perce. This one, if I'm going to say pick a favorite, it's got to be this one. This one is so powerful when you're on our homelands and when you're on our waters. And you hear our songs and you hear our legends and our stories. It's the most powerful experience and it's raw, it's real. You can really feel the power in the water and the power in the guests. And it's great because when we have our groups go on our rafting of the riverbeds, we raft the Salmon and the Snake Rivers, and we're looking at expanding on the Clearwater. And it's neat because sometimes you'll get a group of maybe younger people, and they'll ask, do you mind if we play our cell phones and listen to music while we're heading down the rivers? And it's always beautiful because I wait for people to respond, and there's always at least one person that says, out of respect for this trip, I really just want to hear the water. I really want to hear the birds. I want to pay attention to what this history that is tied to this landscape is. And of course, there's and at the end of the trip they say thank you. Thank you for not allowing us to turn to our mobile devices for the music, for entertainment, because this is, the best trip I've ever had. And sometimes, depending on the year, the rapids are a class 4. Sometimes they're a class 2. But it's such a beautiful trip. The rafting the riverbeds of the Nez Perce would not be possible without that partnership, because I don't own my own rafting company. So what I try to do is, of course, utilize my Nez Perce tribal folks. If they have a business that I can collaborate with, they're going to be my primary. If I don't, I will use another indigenous person or tribal member, maybe that's been adopted into the tribe, or maybe a neighboring tribe. And then if not, we'll go to local companies. And so we try to make sure that we utilize our local and our indigenous people first. Also, we're going to Appaloosa horseback riding. So I work with a great group of people with the Chief Joseph Foundation here in Nimiipuu country, and I'm able to work with them on providing horseback riding sessions. And they are 4 hours long, and we do everything from gathering the horses, brushing the horses, putting the pads on, catching them, saddling them, riding them. And it's just such a great experience because people can authentically enjoy and experience that connection with our sacred horses, our sacred animals that we still have today and that we've been practicing for hundreds and hundreds of years now. And so without that relationship and that partnership with the Chief Joseph Foundation, Nez Perce Tourism would not be able to offer Appaloosa horseback riding. And so if anybody else has any other ideas, in the comments in the chat section, I would like for you to maybe list a company that you work with or that you have in mind or that would be really easy to start working with. And what's neat, because it helps enhance the visibility of your partner. So I'm helping enhancing the visibilities of my jet boat company, of my local facilities that I utilize with Dinner with the Nez Perce, for rafting the riverbeds. Maybe next time they're going to book, a group is going to book a trip of 30 instead of 10. So we're both gaining monetary value from these, and our relationships are strengthening each year. Same with the Appaloosa horseback riding. Man, the Chief Joseph Foundation, if you have time, look them up. They do wonderful things within our tribal and non-tribal communities in Nimiipuu country. So also for our historical site tours, we work heavily with the Nez Perce National Historical Park. So they are extremely important for me because they have 31 historical site tours within their Nez Perce National Historical Park location. So we utilize and we identify, which ones are best accessible for our customers. Sometimes our customers are handicap accessible. Sometimes they're 4th grade students who can just run, jump, and play all day. And so we have to be very aware of exactly what our customer, who it is, and what they're doing. So that would be a part of the historical site tours that we offer as a partner would be the Nez Perce National Historical Park. Now, keep in mind, there's also state parks. There's other federal agencies that we work with on a daily basis, such as the Lewis and Clark State Park and all of the discovery centers and all of these places. So anybody that has anything to do with Nez Perce history and culture, we partnership with them the best that we can. And in this next slide, I'm going to go ahead and ask Lynn to bump over to the next slide for me. And this is where Will is going to talk a little bit about his experience in cultural tourism.
All right, Stacia, thank you very much. You know, for me, tourism is something that I didn't really know I had a knack for until, I spent 9 years in the Marine Corps, and I had the opportunity to go over to Europe and just all kind of different countries over there. And, when I came home and went back to my family's home in Oklahoma, I really was a good storyteller as far as my adventures, where I had been, describing the food and, the culture, the people. So, man, for me, it kind of felt really good to be able to describe my travels and what I felt while I was there to different people. So, when I got out of the Marine Corps, one of my first jobs as a civilian was at the Cherokee Heritage Center in Tahlequah, Oklahoma. I started out as the membership coordinator and eventually over time became the tourism director. And at this time, it was just before the big push for Cherokee tourism. And, speaking of partnerships, that museum's a 501c3, and at that time was a separate entity from the Cherokee Nation of Oklahoma. So for us, partnerships meant the world to us. Tourism-wise, we had the City Chamber of Commerce. The Tahlequah Chamber was a very good partner. For instance, we would do a lot of travel shows all over the country, and over time, as we kind of got the booth and our pitch together, the actual city tourism director, she and I would go to these different locations and really meet with travel planners, if we were in Europe, holiday planners. But I was able to speak on behalf of the cultural side and speak on behalf of the Cherokee experience. But she would actually talk about what to expect in town, all of the possibilities and things to do at different restaurants. So for us, that was my real first taste of partnerships. And then it expands to multi-county organizations, because the state tourism department in Oklahoma, they have several different multi-county organizations to where they help different entities or locations, counties, whatever it may be that are in their location. They help promote tourism. So in Cherokee country here in Oklahoma, we were involved with Green Country Marketing, which is a huge, I call them mini marketing firms, but just some amazing tourism professionals. So for me, I didn't have my any degrees at this time, so I'm going to getting my undergrads while I'm serving as the tourism director. And initially I felt a little intimidated, because although I knew the business structure of tourism, I always felt kind of in the shadows, because I didn't want to get up there and say, oh well, I hadn't been to college at all. So that was a big hurdle for me to overcome. And it was like, once I received my degrees, I was very comfortable at teaching tourism to people, cultural tourism at that. So for us, I began with the city partnership, I began with the multi-county, and now there's, as we get larger and look to tap into more markets, there's several different organizations like IANTA, the American Indian Alaska Native Tourism Association. I had the great opportunity to serve on that board many years ago. And to me, that's where I really learned a lot of different tribal cultures. I knew, I'm a Muskogee Creek citizen. I knew a little bit about my tribe at that time. I had been away for quite a few years. I really was immersed in Cherokee knowledge, because, there's a ancient village there, a living museum, if you will. But one thing that a program that they have, and that they really practice with their employees is an interpretation program. And, it's not so much speaking English, translating into Cherokee. It's really almost like having a script of historical data, historical features that, you can teach a 6-year-old child to be able to tell about the history. You can teach a 20-year-old and an elder to do it. Stacia, like you were mentioning earlier, each group is unique on what kind of experience they want to get in your homelands, in my homelands, or just at a particular location. Some folks, if a young lady got up there and told her about, for my tribe, Muskogee Creek Nation, they would love it to death. But then you have those groups that if an elder were to get up and say that very same script, they would love that as well. So, for us, that's kind of where the centralized story began and really worked for that particular location at the Cherokee Heritage Center.
And that's great. And it looks like we have a few others from Cherokee Nation on with us today. I see Levis is back, and she made some really good comments about the possibility of running whitewater rafting tours on the Illinois River in Oklahoma. And then she also mentioned what we had discussed, Will and Lynn, not too long ago, the living village that's alive and well in your nation. And man, just think of even a 2-day, 3-day tour. You could do, dinner with your tribe, dinner with Cherokee Nation. The next day, head over to, the Living Cultural Center. And then, you could just really make a great opportunity for people who are seeking this. And let's face it, who doesn't know Cherokee Nation? There's lots of possibilities that you have available right there in your area. And, what's neat is that for myself, for my target markets, my second customer segment is my local community, because we're a very close-knit community, but there's a lot of misconceptions that we have in our area of tribal people and non-tribal people. And the non-tribal people are interested. They don't know where to go for that authentic experience. And so, we have international guests, we have corporate guests, we have our business travelers, we have our local guests. So it's just really neat the different aspects that you can get and the different markets that you can get depending on where you're strengthening your partnerships and where what you're seeking. And so the next slide here, we talk about how collaborative partnerships can strengthen your value proposition. And Washington Trust Bank is a key example of how important business partnerships are. And so Washington Trust Bank is my business bank choice that I've utilized since day one. And so as business was growing and we had our grand opening, they were extremely interested in featuring Nez Perce Tourism as their Pacific Northwest small business destination within their corporate company. And so they approached me by asking, would you be willing to let us tag along with you on some of your tours for 2 days this summer? And I said, absolutely. We can go on a jet boat tour. We can go to the Lewis and Clark Discovery Center down at Hell's Gate State Park. We can head out and check out the Appaloosa horses at the Chief Joseph Foundation property. And so that's exactly what we did. I had one of my cultural consultants. I had my daughters, Isela and Kameth Lily. They joined me, and we just had just a great kickback day of doing what we do in cultural tourism. And it was just really neat because they came and they are publicizing on a global scale, the benefits of Washington Trust Bank, but in return, they're also highlighting Nez Perce tourism and the Nimiipuu people. And so there's several 30 to 1 minute video clips that they have out, not only in the local, I said on the global scale as well. So we're on billboards, digital billboards, the Lewiston Morning Tribune, our local money savers and things like that, local print publications. But we're also doing it's called, there's a digital word for it. It's called Digital OTT TV. And what's neat about that is they go and look at their specific target markets, and they put in age, demographics, things like that. And so I've had people, friends, relatives, colleagues call me and say, hey, we just saw you on Pluto TV. Hey, we just saw you on LinkedIn. Hey, you were just on Instagram, on Facebook, on Snap, on YouTube, on all of these different formats. And it's all based upon the target market and our strength of our partnership. And so what's neat about that is, they're promoting Nez Perce tourism, and I'm promoting their bank in return. But Washington Trust Bank has been a phenomenal partnership and bank to work with. And so if you're looking and you have a Washington Trust Bank around, I did a lot of research as far as for our fees, for our processing fees. So one of the things that I offer is on our group tours, I sell Nez Perce merchandise. So I purchase, beaded earrings, jewelry, moccasins, all of these different styles of mediums, whether it's beadwork, canvas, acrylics, and then I'm able to highlight my tribal artisans and sell their things as memorabilia. So we have lots of little transactions that go through Nez Perce Tourism every day. And it's neat because those fees that I've looked into are the lowest from what I found in my area. And that's why I chose Washington Trust Bank. But yeah, they have been such a great company, and that partnership, it's very valuable. And I think it goes both ways. And so another neat value proposition for my partners has been like I mentioned before, the Nez Perce National Historical Park. And this particular event was something that Nez Perce Tourism wanted to do for free. And we didn't charge a fee for this. We wanted to do it for the kids. And so what it is Courageous Climbers is an organization that helps autistic and blind children navigate through life. And so with this experience, we partnered with the Courageous Climbing Kids, the Nez Perce National Historical Park, the University of Idaho Disabilities and Human Development, the Clearwater River Casino, and of course, Nez Perce Tourism. So in these next couple of slides, we're going to look at some of these photos, but this was the most meaningful event that I've ever experienced. And it was one that was free. And it was for these kids who just appreciated and loved the time that we took to help educate them about the Nimiipuu people. And we hosted it out at the Nez Perce National Historical Park on a very warm day. But these pictures will kind of show you the strength that we had. We set up a teepee with them. They got to feel and they got to smell the canvas, and they got to stake the teepee stakes into the ground. They got to feel and hold some of our historical utensils, such as our spoons, maybe a buffalo horn to drink water. Those are the things. They got to feel and they got to drum. They got to smell our sage. And so we were able to utilize basically all five senses to the best that we possibly could to help enhance their experience. And this Courageous Climbing Kids experience, this just solidified, and it gave me that reassurance that, Stacia, this is where you belong. And it was such a beautiful event to be at, and just to take an afternoon to hang out with these kids and spend time with them and love on them, in a way that they've never experienced before. And it was beautiful because one of the gals was a tribal gal, and she was from the Coeur d'Alene tribe. And this is the first time that she has got to experience, some of her heritage from the indigenous side. And so we were honored to have her there. And then, we had such a wonderful time there, sharing who we are with this group. And so that was one of the best things that I felt like that time in my business life, that it was my confirmation. This is exactly where you're supposed to be. And it was just looking at those kids' face and how happy they were to be in our presence, and vice versa. So I'm thankful for that opportunity. So this next couple of photos are going to showcase images of a dinner with the Nez Perce. And so here you'll see Alan Pinkham Sr. He's one of my favorite cultural experts to use. He doesn't like the word cultural expert, but I sure do, because he's that for me. He's somebody that was heavily involved in the Lewis and Clark Bicentennial back in 2003 to 2006. He just has so much information in him, and he's willing to share it. And he shares it in a way that's respectful, in a way that's communicated clearly. And he's just a great guy, and he's actually a co-author of Lewis and Clark Among the Nez Perce. Him and Dr. Steve Evans wrote this book, and we're trying to get monies to print that second edition. But this is another example of the Dinner with the Nez Perce. We have some great content available to them on the tables. We have elk horns, moose horns, bighorns, sheep, buffalo skulls, white-tailed deer sheds, all of these neat things that help tie elements of who we are as Nimiipuu into this experience. Along with, of course, salmon dinner. We have huckleberry pie, fry bread. We've got some salads. We have onions and celery and carrots. Some of our first foods that we historically would have used. Although this is definitely something that we purchased from the Cisco food for FSA. One of these days, maybe it'll inspire one of our tribal entrepreneurs to open up their own company to be able to share our traditional first foods in a way that is, more authentic than this, if that's something that they choose. But for now, my partnerships with the Quality Inn and other locations for venues have been wonderful. So here's an example of Lightning Creek. Lightning Creek is a phenomenal drum group. They have been they've been awarded as, or nominated, excuse me, as they've been nominated for all types of things, this group. And I love working with them. They teach the younger kids. They bring performers. I love utilizing this group because their sound is amazing. They sing our old songs. They have their own contemporary songs that they've built. So utilizing our drum groups is awesome. So the next thing I want to get into real briefly is our sponsorship opportunities. And so I've hosted several events, from blue skies and trail rides to a healing movement, just depending on the month. And so this is something that's really neat, because when we think about sponsorship opportunities, we think about creating that lasting partnership, and it turns into annual events. So say, for example, for the Chief Joseph Foundation, you see the second annual Blue Skies and Trail Rides. So you can obviously see that, last year was our first one. This one is our second one. So what we're able to do is we're able to invite local companies, local departments, and individuals to be a part of this bigger picture idea without them having to plan, to coordinate, to come to all the meetings, to follow up with people, to make sure everything is on schedule. And it's beautiful because these specific departments or individuals or businesses, they want to be tied into this great movement that's happening. They want to be involved in the culture and the performance and the entertainment and the preservation that you offer as a tourism company. But again, they don't want to be there for all of the planning. So what they'll do, or what you'll do, is you'll draft up some sponsorship opportunity levels. You can have a premium, major, minor sponsorships, table sponsorships, whatever it might be. So something in particular for the Chief Joseph Foundation Blue Skies and Trail Rides is that we have a VIP table sponsorship you can see for $500. So perhaps a company didn't want to invest $1,000 in a minor sponsorship, but they wanted to offer a VIP table for their corporate or department employees. That's something that they can invest in as a great night out with their friends or colleagues, and they can attend a nice cultural event that highlights the Chief Joseph Foundation and Nez Perce culture. So also for the middle photo, you can see the van. I have the van rental service I mentioned earlier in the presentation. And so along with that, you think of other ways that you can enhance those partnership opportunities. So the Clearwater River Casino, one of our local enterprise businesses, they sponsored to have the Clearwater River Casino logo on the van. The van travels all over the place. It's been to Portland and back, Seattle and back, it goes all over the Pacific Northwest. And what a great way to help sponsor and promote and use, and people rent the van. People can rent the van and drive themselves. And so we've had, groups from Canada come and rent the van, and them and their family or them and their kids or whoever it is will just come pouring out of this Nez Perce tourism van and Clearwater River Casino van. And oftentimes they end up, staying at these places if they haven't already booked their overnight accommodations because of that connection with Nez Perce tourism. So another sponsorship opportunity, and we've had several sponsors on this, was for the healing movement. And that one was free and open to the public. And so for the healing movement, we hired Acacia Red Elk, she's a phenomenal yoga instructor. And, it doesn't hurt that she's also a multi-time world champion jingle dress dancer. But she's an amazing young woman that we hired from another sister tribe. And, just knowing who she is and having her come over and lead this healing movement, it was amazing. We got some sponsorships from, Nimi Poo Fund, from the Nez Perce Tribe's Students for Success Department, from the Nez Perce Tribe Nimi Poo Health, from the University of Idaho 4-H Extension, the Clearwater River Casino. And so by utilizing the sponsorship opportunities, you are able to strengthen that value proposition. And again, it gets people more involved. Your reach goes further on the local level. And people are looking forward to, maybe not everybody can afford to go to a $50 ticketed event with the Chief Joseph Foundation, but they can come to a free yoga healing movement. And also inside that healing movement, we had, powwow yoga, and we had a salmon dinner at the end. And folks were able to get up and just to really share their gratitude for this space to be opened for men and women of, all ages. I mean, we had elders that, who weren't able to do the powwow moves like they used to, but we had folks with chairs out. We had non-tribal members who are really getting into the healing movement, and we're looking forward to a second annual for next year. So these are just some ideas for sponsorship opportunities that create lasting partnerships. I also had a really neat lasting partnership that happened last year, and this year in 2019, we were given the award as the #3 Best of Downtown Lewiston Countdown. And so beautiful downtown Lewiston, each year they offer a cultural art walk. And I'm just going to go ahead and read through this. So #3, strengthen partnerships led to art walk growth. So this was an article that was placed in the Pacific Northwest, and it got a lot of coverage. It says, thanks to partnerships with the Nez Perce National Historical Park, Nez Perce Tourism, the Washington Idaho Symphony, and the Lewiston Civic Theater Side Notes program, we added incredible cultural performances that made Lewiston's Downtown Art Walk a three-dimensional weekend of celebrating our region's culture. We are grateful for the host location businesses, sponsors, artists, performers, and local wine beer makers who have helped us develop this event. So again, save the date for next year, October 2nd and 3rd of 2020. So it's neat that throughout all of the things that happened in Lewiston, that we were the top 3, and this is just the beginning, folks. So, being able to identify what those sponsorship opportunities are, how you can strengthen those partners' relationship is something that's very important to us in cultural tourism, especially when we are representing our entire nation. So I always talk about that fine line of, sacred versus secret versus commonly known. That really is the life or death of cultural tourism. And you early on have to identify, where is that line and where do you draw it? And so we covered that in one of our last webinar series. But again, I always want to make sure that we as Indigenous people are respecting our ancestors and our ways of life, and making sure that we don't cross that invisible line and take it too far, because, that could be life or death for your company, for your local community buy-in. So I'm so thankful that you guys have all been able to join us today. And what I would like to do is ask Will to share a few more things about his experiences. And then if there was any questions, I'm going to navigate through the video chat and see if I can answer any of them.
All right, Stacia, thank you very much. Again, I wanted to just say for this particular webinar, if there are any inspiring entrepreneurs out there that are, you're at the verge or you think you're ready to take the leap into cultural tourism, especially if you're from a tribal enriched area, reservation, tribal land, whatever the case may be, these webinars can be really great resources into just helping you have the tools to make this happen. And like to me, what took me a bit to recognize is, growing up in, Muskogee Creek country, I understood how our tribe worked in the history and so on and so forth. I believe it's packaging it together and again, being able to market and tell your story. And in doing so, not exploiting your culture. Just wanted to say that. For all you entrepreneurs out there, partnerships are key because, one thing that they're going to be able to help you out with is, you may get into a bigger market depending on your partner. You can have an opportunity to new services, new products. And I say that because, around our rural area, it's hard to get connectivity sometimes. So if you are able to partner with a local college, local, whatever the case may be, everybody's in the Snapchat and YouTube and, Instagram. The thing that's going to help you out is your participants, all your customers, your loyal customers. They're going to want to share their experience on social media. So some things that we do is we'll partner with a local college kid that has that entrepreneurship spirit in them, and they'll help us edit videos, pictures. My wife is amazing at doing infographics, and for me, she helps my business quite a bit. And I'm very fortunate to have an in-house graphics designer because I take full advantage of it. And those are some things that if you're not tech savvy, Lord knows I'm not, but finding that person to help you out, that if you have to pay them, great. If they do it as a comp service, even greater. One thing that I failed to mention earlier, if you see my picture, Willow Consulting LLC is my company. And, we help develop cultural tourism. We help with fundraising and, like Stacia mentioned earlier, sponsorship opportunities. Those are going to help you host these events. Your local businesses, they want business just like you do. So why wouldn't they partner and sponsor your event to be able to reach those people that are actually, boots on the ground, if you will, in your area, that may come over and grab a soda, grab a meal, whatever the partnering industry is. So with my company, you can find us on thegreatwilliamlowe.com. Just please take a look. My contact information is on there. I love to visit about cultural tourism. Stacia, I'm just thrilled to death that you would ask me to participate in this phenomenal webinar series that you're doing. And I just wanted to say that, it's such a great thing to see a tribal entrepreneur want to share what he or she knows, with the average person. That, how it is. We're all thinking about trying to do it, but we're a little afraid to do it because we don't want to leave our full-time job. One advantage, I just completed my MBA program at Grand Canyon University, and I would probably say like 80% of my papers were written on cultural tourism. That's an industry I'm very familiar with, and through all the attributes of that MBA program tied in with cultural tourism and how to be an entrepreneur and a better cultural business person. So Stacia and Lynn, thank you so much for including me in this. Is there anything else that either of you two would like for me to touch
I
on?
just wanted to give another shout out real quick to IDRS, the Acorn Project, and invite folks to our next webinar series, which are going to be discussing the path to discovery, how to conduct market research to determine the feasibility of your tourism business idea, and then also to navigate to the IDRS Acorn Project website and YouTube channel to look at some of our past webinars. And I think this is just such an invaluable resource for people who, all of us, we all have an entrepreneurial spirit in us. It's just taking that step of courage and bravery to move forward and to do it, and to start networking and seeing people not as competition, but as collaborative partners. And man, once that mindset is changed, the world is yours. Everybody is looking for that person who is willing to work with other people. And I know it gets hard. And when I was first doing the Indianpreneurships, I don't know if anybody's familiar with that. If not, definitely look it up. But Indianpreneurship was a business planning tool that was put together by a great group of individuals, and we were able to walk through each step in the business planning process. And I remember walking in there, and I was so afraid to share my idea because I didn't want somebody to steal it, that I actually had the gal who orchestrated this specific Indianpreneurship, I had her sign a confidentiality notice and said, I'm going to share this with you. This is my idea. Even when I walked into the Small Business Center of Lewiston, I said, we need to sign this confidentiality. You're not going to tell anybody what I'm going to do, because I was so determined, but I was also scared that someone was going to take my idea before I was able to open my doors. So what I did is I hit it from a cultural preservation angle. And when I went to these places, I had publicly talked about opening up a nonprofit that I would be able to, share my culture with the strength of my youth to my elders, and that we'd have a one-on-one relationship with them to help preserve and share each other's values and knowledge. In Nez Perce Tourism, we do still do that, but I remember being so scared to talk about what it is that I was going to do, and now that I feel confident, and we've opened doors and we're doing well, and we've gotten contracts and subcontracts and contacts and so much work to do with, that we're able to put our collaborative partners in the spotlight, in the highlight. I'm able to work with the Coeur d'Alene tribe. I'm able to work with the Nez Perce tribe. And to do that as an individual entrepreneur is so gratifying, because this is what the world is waiting for. They're waiting for you, Will. They're waiting for you, Lynn. They're waiting for you, Lisa. Everybody, all of you, to just really gain that courage and that confidence, because the people that we come from, there isn't anything that we can't do. Just look at our past, and you'll know that, and you'll realize that. So again, thank you all so much for joining us today. We hope we see you on our next series, which will take place February 4th. And thank you for joining us today. Thank you, Lynn, for facilitating this. And thank you, IDRS Acorn Project.